So my buddy Time has perhaps the most frustrating build to play against that I've ever seen in Destiny. He's been perfecting this over the last couple of years, and I'm really glad that he's usually on my team because I would absolutely hate to play against his shenanigans. And today he's going to tell you all about how to play this very powerful, effective, and frustrating for the other team Warlock Stasis build, and give you some tricks on how to make the most out of it. And then also he has some cool PvE builds that are pretty neat too. So Time, I'll give you the mic.
Oh, beautiful. I am here to spread the gospel of Frostpulse, okay? This thing is so good. From the last time we've spoken, I have gotten, I think, a lot better with Frostpulse being able to use it aggressively, almost like a fusion rifle for people who are pushing around corners pretty quickly. And then it leads to so many team wipes, especially when you mix it with like multiple distribution mods to get your super energy and your abilities back, multiple dynamo mods to get your energy back. It's crazy. It is actually insane how fast you can get your super with this build if you are committing to using your rift for the frost pulse to either freeze people or even use it around corners to activate distribution and dynamo.
And generally speaking, my experience watching you play this build with when we play trials or whatever is that people are frozen around you all of the time. It seems like you're just constantly freezing.
Yeah, I'm basically that ice cream truck you hear driving down the street playing the music.
Yeah, it's crazy. I can't tell you guys how many times I see people or see 2 or 3 people frozen right in front of him, and he wins some big clutch engagement, or it's got to be very frustrating to play against. So why don't you just kind of give us the overview of how this all works, and then we can go into some of the details.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So this build that I'm currently running, most of the builds that I run when I use Stasis focus on Frost Pulse. And that is because I personally believe that Frost Pulse is essentially a fourth weapon. You have your primary weapon, you have your energy weapon, you have your heavy, but Frost Pulse is just something so incredibly special to compared to almost every other subclass, where it gives you the ability to force people to have to play differently. Normally, with most subclasses, most people can just push you very quickly. And when you have somebody with a build that's meant for pushing, a lot of shotguns, a lot of like close melee abilities, it's incredibly disastrous to your health, right? But with Frost Pulse, it's kind of like an Uno reverse card no you. Because if you decide to be too pushy against me and I learn your timing of when you like to push, what corners you like to push, are you just fully going for it and not waiting, you know what I mean? Or do you hold back a little bit? I can time the Frost Pulse just perfectly that I can catch you around corners, and then basically it causes an entire team shutdown if I play my cards right. And it forces the enemy team to have to consider that or lose. It is such an amazing aspect that I think honestly is overlooked by a lot of Shadebinder players who just opt to use Bleak Watcher instead of Frost Pulse.
Interesting. One thing I want you to explain a little bit is, because I've tried to use the Rift to freeze people is what we're talking about right now. And a lot of times my timing is not great on it, and I'll just either do it too early or too late. But it seems like you have really good timing on how to catch people when they're coming around a corner, and you just magically get them every time. Do you have any tips on how to use it most effectively?
So the biggest tip for me when you use Frost Pulse is to, as most things in this game, pay attention to the pie on the radar very closely. Usually when people start moving in very fast, the radar will swap from, the red being in the outer corners to the red being a good fraction of that pie slice. And then all of a sudden when they're within, I think it's like 10 meters or so, the inner portion of the radar goes very bright red. And then the closer they get, it gets even redder. So if you're paying attention to the radar and you see suddenly, oh, the outer corner is bright. Oh, shoot, the middle corner's bright. Oh, shoot, the inner corner's bright, right? That typically means somebody is pushing you hardcore very fast, and that should prompt and tell you, get that Frost Pulse ready to go, right? And you also have to kind of analyze what's happening in the game. If you are in a 3v3 situation, people are typically far less likely to just outright push you by themselves without their team, right? But if you have a teammate who's down, or it's just you versus 3 people, they're going to feel way more confident to just get into the fight right away to knock you down. So you can use that confidence and the understanding of how the radar works with the pie charts, the pie slices, and how red they get when they start pushing you, to time your frost pulses at the perfect moment. So it takes a bit of understanding the radar and then understanding what you believe people are going to do based on the current situation of the game.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess it's just a practice thing too. Just
it is. Oh, 100%. When you first start using Frostpulse, you will miss so many times because you're not used to how far it can reach. You're not used to how long it takes to cast the animation. You're not used to the timing because sometimes people, what they'll do, they'll run up to you, but then they start backtracking. Oh, whoops, you missed your Frostpulse, right? But then if you hold just a bit too long, that shotgun already killed you before you can cast it. So it takes a lot of, honestly, a good 15% of it is luck in hopes that the enemy does not just get that weird movement and then instant kills you in the middle of it. But, that 85% of there, that's all you. That's all you to use, I think, one of the most amazing abilities in this game that completely turn games around.
Yeah, okay. That sounds good. I'm going to have to give it a try myself a little bit more. So we've made a video about a similar build, like a year or two ago. And at the time you were using a bow as your primary weapon, and now I've noticed that you're typically, you have about 40,000 kills on that old bow, I remember.
I love this thing.
And now you're using a scout rifle. So can you kind of talk me through the change in, what inspired you to switch up your loadout here?
Sure. So the main reason why I used Biting Winds was because this was one of the only bows in the kinetic slot. Actually, I think it was the only bow in the kinetic slot that could roll Swashbuckler. That was a precision frame. And what made this specifically special, especially with the build that I play, is the whole point of Frostpulse is to get melee kills. Well, Swashbuckler gets the full stacks in a melee kill. And at the time when we first recorded the first interview, precision frames with ×5 Swashbuckler from one melee kill could one-shot headshot. It did 202 damage, tier 10 resilience, everybody dead headshots, and you could chain it. The unfortunate problem is, ever since they updated the base health, though now everybody has 30 extra health, and they reduced precision frame and lightweight frame bows base damage, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, you can no longer one-shot headshot players with Swashbuckler at ×5, even if you have Radiant and even if the enemy is weakened. It's just you cannot do it anymore, period. So unfortunately, that pushed me a little bit away from using it as much in 3v3s, and I wanted to find a different weapon that, although yes, it's not as effective as Biting Winds used to be with Swashbuckler with the build, it's more well-rounded with everything else and offers a bit more fast-paced movement that I can do. So I kept on bouncing around to different weapons. One of the ones I stuck to for a while was a Firefright with Fragile Focus and Adagio, and this thing just felt incredibly good, especially when you had Adagio active. And it's taken me a little bit while to find a weapon in this slot that I've enjoyed, because one of the personal journeys that I'm going through right now is learning how to play mouse and keyboard. So I've been on controller for the past 10 years, and I decided about 5 months ago to pick up mouse and keyboard for the first time ever, and it has kicked my butt. The beginning, I was horrible, absolutely terrible. I think my stats completely tanked all the way down to the ground. But in the past, I'd say 2 or so months, I've gotten a lot better at it, and I'm really proud with my progress so far. But what that means is there's a clear difference between what weapons work well on controller and what weapons work good on mouse and keyboard. And I found for me personally, because I was new to mouse and keyboard, bows did not work as well for me at the time. I couldn't be as accurate with it. My aim wasn't that accurate. And when you have a weapon that has a long draw time, a long time to kill, any single misses is a death. So I decided to put all bows kind of on the back burner for a little bit and try and go for other weapons that are faster firing and require like a little bit more precise micro aiming in order to adjust to follow through with the kills.
Real quick, I want to give a big thanks to WarThunder for sponsoring this video. If you imagine what the ultimate vehicle combat game might look like, I bet you'd basically be describing WarThunder. Imagine having over 2,500 vehicles at your fingertips. We're talking tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships from the 1920s all the way up to today's technology. These are some of the coolest military vehicles in history, and you get to control them. Not only do the vehicles and surroundings look amazing, but the graphics and sound effects are super immersive. Probably my favorite feature is the vehicle damage modeling. Instead of just having generic hits like most games do, it shows you an X-ray view so you can see exactly what happens inside of the vehicle. You can spot where the damage occurs and how it affects everything inside. And with a huge community of over 70 million players worldwide, you can dive into PvP action right away. The game is free to play on PC and console, and both new and returning players who haven't played for at least 6 months will receive a massive bonus pack across all platforms. Just use my link in the description or the pinned comment to get multiple premium vehicles, the exclusive vehicle decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of a premium account. It's available for a limited time only, so don't forget to claim it.
And so that's kind of what landed with me testing auto rifles, because although, yeah, auto rifles, you know, they're pretty forgiving. They are pretty forgiving. I mean, Bungie outright themselves said they're pretty forgiving, which is why they kind of got a nerf lately. But what I noticed was in higher skill level matches, if you used an auto rifle, you pretty much got destroyed by most every hand cannon user who was really good, right? Yep. And so it kind of forced me to get good with mouse and keyboard, because if I missed even one bullet, it was over. I was done. So it was like a fast track push for me to get good at my micro aiming on mouse and keyboard, smooth aiming. And from there, I've slowly transitioned into more precise weapons that require a little bit more accuracy between your shots, or else your time to kill severely drops. But in my opinion, are far more effective in the current meta that comes with high damage, fast fire rate, or semi-fast fire rate weapons. So one of the weapons that I've landed with is the Prophet. I pretty much treat this thing like a longer range 120. I'm pretty sure it does nearly the same amount of damage as a regular 120. I think maybe slightly higher body shot damage. But the biggest thing that I really enjoy about this is just the combination of keep away and kill clip, and just how this scout rifle feels. It feels different. So it's one of those only weapons I've landed with so far on mouse and keyboard that I, with only 5 months of experience ever in a first-person shooter with mouse and keyboard, have gotten comfortable with compared to most other weapons in the game. So it's a little bit of a this feels good to me right now, which is why I'm using it, rather than this is the best thing ever, you know? But it works very well with my overall build, because you actually can do some funny combos here with Eriana's Vow specifically. Eriana's Vow is the one weapon that has not come off of my loadout ever. And that is because it works so incredibly good with Stasis. It is like the perfect pairing to Stasis right now, especially with the special ammo changes to implement the checkmate system for special ammo regen. It just works so well that people do not expect it.
I noticed that you still have around 50,000 kills on that thing, so...
Yeah, I'm bringing it back. Oh man, I just love this thing so much. It's just so incredibly good.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how do you end up using Eriana's? Do you feel like you use it more like a sniper rifle that you then try to get a cleanup with the Hank with your scout rifle, or is it more of like a finishing weapon, or like how do you find the best use out of it?
There's 2 ways I like to use it right now. Well, 3 ways. The first 2 are everything about shooting. The third one is more about abilities. But I'll focus on the first 2 first. Initially, you spawn with 4 shots in Eriana's Vow. And with the checkmate system, most people generally aren't using special weapons as much anymore because you don't have that much ammo in them, right? All like shotgun, sniper rifle, they all pretty much just waste their ammo the first round, and after that you don't see them anymore, generally. But with Eriana's Vow, because you spawn with 4 shots, my philosophy is I use Eriana's Vow as a team shot weapon for the first 2 bullets, and then I save the next 2 bullets for ability kills. So they actually, with the health changes that they implemented not too long ago, they increased Eriana's Vow's base damage to still be able to be consistent against the higher health that players have. So now, with Death at First Glance active, it does 190 damage to the head. 190 damage. That means if you have literally anybody on your team, so much as shooting somebody with like an angry stare, right? They're dead right off the bat. And when I have 2 of those shots, when you do that in a 3v3 situation, it can quickly shut down the beginning of the match just like that. Very, very quickly.
It seems like one of those weapons that you just don't see very much at all. And I think you're one of the few people who really has figured out how to use it effectively. Because I mean, you know, in trials, I almost never see this weapon out there. So it's cool that you found a really unique playstyle to make it work.
The other part about Eriana's that works with specifically the Prophet that I'm playing around with right now, and you can also do this with a regular 120, but the Prophet does, I believe, 55 damage to the body. And so 55 damage to the body doesn't seem like much, but when Eriana's Vow does 190 damage to the body, following up, it catches people off guard. So a lot of the times what I'll do is I'll mess with people's, I guess is the best way, it's kind of a mind game. If somebody gets shot for 55 damage in the body, generally, even if they, you know, really know what they're doing, they're going to feel confident to be able to peek through and then try and continue the engagement rather than immediately disengaging, right? And so I play this little game where I deliberately body shot somebody, I miss the head, I go for the body only, and then as I peek back around the corner, I swap to Eriana's Vow, and I follow up with the 190 headshot, and that allows me to go from not winning the engagement, if you look at the overall who's shooting what and when, to, well, I just downed that person in 2 shots.
That's awesome. That's a pretty dirty little mind trick you're playing there.
It's crazy. It catches people off guard so often. You're obviously using 2 long range weapons, so admittingly at close range this does begin to suffer a little bit when people are really pushing you hardcore. But that's why you use the Shadebinder's ability to prevent people from pushing you hardcore to keep them at like a decent distance. So this still works pretty efficiently.
Yeah, I was going to say, you punish people pretty severely with your Rift, with the freezing ability when they get too close to you. So it seems like you have a good answer for that too.
Oh, absolutely. And there is a very, very, very special thing that happened to Eriana's Vow that has completely elevated it even more, you know, to go further and beyond than what it was before. Bungie, in their gloriousness, decided that, I believe, in one of the TWABs they mentioned it, that special ammo weapons will now do slightly more damage to frozen players, or frozen targets. It used to be, I think, 5%, and I believe they brought it up to around 10%. And the nice part about that is, with Eriana's Vow now doing 190 damage to the head, when you freeze a player, that means you are doing so much critical damage because of the extra damage to frozen players, that even if you so much as freeze anybody, even if you do no damage to them, it will one-shot them in the head as long as they are frozen, which can completely twist games around on their head when somebody doesn't expect to be domed by like baby's first sniper. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Before they updated the health, you were able to, Eriana's Vow did 101 damage to the body. The maximum health everybody had was, I believe, around 202. With Eriana's Vow dealing 101 to the body, as long as you were aimed down sight, melees did about 101 as well, which means that you were able to ADS body shot someone into a melee. So even if somebody was hardcore pushing you, you could still get out of the situation. Unfortunately, because of the extra 30 health bump, even though Eriana's Vow did get extra damage, you can't reliably body shot somebody into a melee anymore. So the overall build has gotten some buffs here and there in different aspects of it, but it's a lot less effective at close range, which is why I've decided to shift my exotics over from using Apathettic aspects to like swap stuff quickly to now exotics that allow me to use my Frostpulse or get it back even more aggressively.
That makes sense. So can you explain for people who might not know how the stag works, like how that exotic functions and then how you like to use it in your build?
Yeah, absolutely. So the base way that Stag works currently is when your health gets into the critical zone, meaning your shield is gone, your health gets even lower and starts flashing red. I believe you get about 25% of your rift energy, like instantly, just as a big old jump, 25%. And then when you die, it leaves a healing rift where your body was with a little bit of damage reduction if your teammate is standing inside of it, which is great, and that's fantastic. However, the only reason I am using Stag is to massively gain huge benefits from getting your rift energy just for being critically wounded. The truth is, most games you play, you're gonna get critically wounded here and there, especially if you're fighting a team that's of equal skill level. You're both trading shots here and there, you're both trading near death shots here and there, and so I'm using the fact that I know I'm going to be getting into situations where my health is just absolutely zero and I have to back up in order to essentially charge my Frostpulse up all the way back. So then even though I used it like 20 seconds ago, I have another one. You know what I mean? So it really puts people on, it puts a lot of pressure on teams who think that my abilities are gone. They're not. They're just sitting in the back waiting, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. So speaking of abilities, let's go through all of the aspects and fragments and ability choices and how you set up the rest of the build.
For sure. So starting from the left over here, if you are going to use or try a Frostpulse build, it is mandatory that you use Empowering Rift. And the reason why is because Empowering Rift actually has a faster animation to cast. And so you can actually follow up with a melee quicker than Healing Rift. It's really weird. It's only by a few frames, but it is enough that if you use Healing Rift, you cannot consistently follow up with a melee for players that are just a bit too far. But with Empowering Rift, you absolutely can. Just today, I was playing some trials, and I was going. One of my teammates was a Shadebinder, and they were using Frostpulse. They were using it successfully, but a couple times they did, like 1 or 2 times, they did miss the melee. I opened up their build and I saw that they were using Healing Rift, and so I put in the chat. I'm like, hey, you don't need to change anything, but just to let you know, Empowering Rift does this and this and this a little bit faster. And they were really grateful to hear about that, and then they sent me a message a little bit later, going like, holy. Like I can actually melee people up to 7 meters away now. I'm like, yep. It makes no sense, but it works.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And there's one very specific thing though that oh my god, it's a huge change to this. I'm gonna get to that in a second, and you're gonna go, oh my god, that opens up so many opportunities. You're gonna absolutely love this. But let me continue moving over to the right here. For my grenade stat is always like trash. It's always like near 0. I don't care about the grenade that much because I only use the grenade for very specific circumstances. I prefer Duskfield grenade, even though, yes, I did mention that, hey, if I freeze a player, then I can one-shot them with Erianas. Yes, absolutely, should be using Cold Snap. But I don't find the base Cold Snap to be smart enough to grab people frequently to be worth the 2-minute charge it takes at my current discipline level to get the rest of my stats where I want it to be. I'd have to use Osmio for that, but that is not part of my build, so that's out of it for me. So I prefer to use Duskfield grenades for when there is a ghost on the field and I want to prevent them from getting the revive for a couple more seconds, or if I'm about to cast my super and I want to prevent the enemy that I'm just about to go for from essentially dipping across the map and running away. I toss the Duskfield, I grab them, cast my super, go for it. So that's why I use Duskfield personally. That's kind of a personal choice situation. If you're going to use Eriana's Vow, test it around with Cold Snap. It'll work just wonderfully, but Duskfield for me just does everything that I need for area denial, so I absolutely love it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Those grenades really are amazing for locking down particular portions of maps too. Like I hate getting stuck in Duskfield so much because it's, for me, mostly playing Hunter, the movement is like such a huge part of your game.
It's so important.
Anytime someone's throwing Duskfields into spots where you're trying to roam around, it's just really it can mess up your entire flow. So being on the other side of it, I totally understand the power of them.
No, it's great. Moving over to the aspects here. The first one, obviously, we have conditional finality at home. Frostpulse. Absolutely crazy aspect. You cast your rift, and then I believe it sends out around a 7-meter freeze radius around you. that freezes players that are within that radius. And then it gives you, it's a very short period. It's a very short period. But for a short moment, it's like half a second or so. Your melee lunge is extended to, I think, almost 7 meters or so, which means it kind of throws you off how far you think you're able to melee lunge. But we'll go into private and we'll show you exactly just how far you can melee lunge with Frostpulse. It kind of gets ridiculous and catches people off guard because it's almost like Striker Titan melee range with Synthos. It's ridiculous. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. And then the natural pairing for Frostpulse should always be Ice Flare Bolts, because on the off chance that you freeze, let's say 2 people, you melee one of them, you shatter them, you kill them, while the other person is still alive, and then if they have a shotgun, you're pretty much done, or if you manage to kill them, that's great. But it's nicer to have that safety net from Ice Flare Bolt that when you freeze and kill 2 people or 1 person, it'll go and grab the next person next to them so you can safely kill them. Or if you only freeze 1 person and you kill them, if there's someone else coming right behind the corner after you, at least that'll grab them and you can continue the chains from there.
Yeah, this is the part I think that amazes me so much when we play together, because a lot of times I'll see you freeze the first person and then you'll get the kill that, and then the second person gets frozen too, not by the first thing, but the from the seekers that will go chase them down and freeze them, and then you kill them too. And it's like amazing how many 2v1s that you win in close quarters, considering you don't have a shotgun or an SMG or something that would typically be helping you there.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely great. It's mandatory if you're going to run Frostpulse, and it works obviously even great if you run Cold Snap Grenade. Combining, it's just Ice Flare Bolts is an aspect you cannot not have on your Shadebinder. It is a mandatory aspect because it's just so good. It is just so good.
So what fragments are we running with this?
So fragments, sometimes I do change the very first one here. The other 3 I essentially keep no matter what. But starting from the first one here, I use Whisper of Impetus. When you damage somebody with the Stasis melee, it reloads your stowed weapon, which for Eriana's Vow personally, that doesn't matter because it has auto-loading holster in it. But the most important part is it gives you a temporary boost to weapon ready speed, which means that after you throw your melee, you recover from the animation to pull out Eriana's to follow up with a headshot so fast, people just blink of an eye, dead, gone. It's ridiculously good. And it works very well when you're fighting supers, because you break out of stasis very quickly in your super, and so the faster you can bring Eriana's up to get an aimed down sight headshot, and then you follow up with a melee, the faster you can essentially 2-tap any super in the game. It is crazy good. So that is the first fragment I use. The second one is Whisper of Conduction. And now you might wonder, why the heck am I using a fragment that is meant for stasis shards, but I'm not using any aspects that would give me stasis shards? It is purely for the extra resilience and intellect for my build. So this is one of those fragments I totally understand somebody wanting to change out, but in my eyes, I want 100 intellect no matter what. And the way the sandbox currently is, with primary weapons being the main focus, everybody having more health, I want as much resilience as possible too, that way I can survive a little bit more. So it kind of, for me, made sense, but this is more of a, if you prefer another fragment, this is a totally valid place to put it. For the third one, I use Whisper of Bonds, and oh my gosh, I think people are completely overlooking this fragment. So for a little context, the last time we've spoken, Whisper of Bonds was completely different. How it worked before was when you killed a frozen player, you got super energy immediately. Straight to your super bar, you got super energy. It was like maybe a kill's worth of super. It was great. It was wonderful. Gave me my super back faster than everybody else. However, Bungie decided to change it. And so now, instead of giving you super immediately to your bar, you drop an orb of power for killing a frozen target. This has completely changed the realm of this build entirely. And the reason why is because that orb of power means now you can run perks that require an orb pickup to activate, like surge mods, like recuperation, like better already. So in the past, one of the dangers of playing Shadebinder and Frostpulse aggressively, you had to use Empowering Rift to follow up with a melee. Problem is, well, you don't have Healing Rift. You don't got healing. So if you have people shooting at you, what are you going to do? You're going to lose all your health? Cool, you got a kill, but now you're dead, right? The amazing part about Whisper of Bonds now, though, and this is something that I think everybody needs to do if you're going to run Frostpulse. You need to do this. Whisper of Bonds, and then on your legs, you throw on at least 1 or 2 recuperations on here. Because what'll happen is you get the Frostpulse kill, and immediately it spawns an orb, which you pick up immediately because you're within melee range. You melee kill them, so you pick up the orb instantly, and now your health goes from nearly 0. With 2 of these, you get nearly 80% of your entire health bar and your shield bar just back up instantly, all the way back up, which gives you a lot of survivability. I like to pair this with Better Already, which then fills it all the way back up gradually. Recuperation is like a big bump in your health. Better Already kind of just starts your health regeneration up. So when you pair all 3 of these together like I do, you pick up 1 orb and you're essentially back at max health. So even if you started that engagement with like 1 health left, you manage to kill somebody, you go into the next engagement with max health. It is great. And if you're somebody who prefers to use stasis buffs or surge mods, you can throw in a surge mod inside here too. So then you got that melee kill. Well, you're already standing inside of an empowering rift. So now you're standing in an empowering rift for a damage buff, and now you picked up that orb, which gave you a surge mod. Your weapon is gonna absolutely toast somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's awesome. I am
great.
a mega fan of Better Already. That is like one of my favorite mods. I put in pretty much every build I can. The only problem is I don't really, in most of my builds, generate orbs consistently anymore ever since they changed it off of weapon, double kills and stuff. So I don't get it that often, but this is really cool, having a built-in way to pretty reliably make orbs.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. And the second part to it too, it's not just an orb for me, it's an orb for you. It's an orb for the whole goddamn team. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So that's super for the whole team. It's not as much super as it was before. It's like a fraction of it. But I am gladly going to take a fraction of the super it used to give you if it means it now gives super to your entire team and everybody can benefit from orb pickup abilities. Because now consider you have maybe a void subclass teammate who has the fragment that gives you devour for picking up an orb of power.
Absolutely.
Boom. Boom. They just got max health, devour, just from picking up the orb that you were sitting on, and it spawns the orb from and it spawns orbs from super kills as well. And the other thing you can do, there's so many combos in here. Like this is just this is like 2 trees colliding with their branches. There's so many interweaving things happening here. The other really nice thing is if you run Whisper of Bonds and then on your Warlock Bond here you run Reaper. Well, Reaper, when you use your class ability, your next weapon final blow spawns an orb of power. Well, if you cast your rift and you freeze somebody, you hit them with Erianas in the head, you're not only spawning 1 orb, they stack. You spawn 2 orbs.
Oh, that's so crazy. So you're getting both the doubling up on all those benefits. That's awesome.
Double. Yep. What's better than 1 chocolate bar? 2 chocolate bars. It's fantastic. I absolutely love it. It's crazy. I'll get into exactly how I maximize how much super I get just for 1 button press shortly here, but I'll explain the fourth fragment here. The last one here is just the basic Whisper of Chains. When you're near frozen targets or stasis crystals, you get more damage reduction from targets. They did nerf this, so it's not as high of a damage reduction anymore, but with Stag giving you damage reduction for sitting inside of your rift during the cast, I mean, that stacked on top of Stag is a pretty decent amount of damage reduction that when you're fighting somebody who's using primary ammo weapons mainly, you can survive an extra shot or 2, which is just enough time for you to be able to melee kill somebody and then just start this entire demolitionist chain going on.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, especially, I mean, if you're freezing people in close quarters like that, you want as much damage resistance as possible. So if you're getting shot at from someone who's down the lane, like you can survive to win your 1v1 and then get safe, and you're getting your orbs and everything, and it just works so synergistically together. That's great.
For sure, exactly. The synergy is a fantastic way to put it. There's not many builds in this game that I would truly say have synergy. A lot of builds essentially in PvP just come down to use this weapon and just spam your abilities. right? There's not much you have to really think about it generally all too much, but this really is one of those things where, well, that benefits that, but then that thing benefits that thing, but then if you use those together, they both create this situation. It's great. It's great. I love it so much.
That's awesome. So let's look at some of the other armor and how the various mods work together.
So from what I haven't spoken about so far, my legs here are mostly for the orb pickups. So we can ignore that for now since I already went over that. And generally, the rest of my mods I have on all of my other class items have to do with just swapping my weapons and reloading my weapons much faster. You know, basic targeting mods, basic reloading mods, basic unflinching mods. There's not too much special things going on there. However, the most important thing to maximize how fast you get your super with this build in combination with Frostpulse and Whisper of Bonds is Dynamo and Distribution. So Dynamo, when you use your Rift near players, you get a chunk of super energy. That's fantastic, and that's awesome. However, what a lot of people don't know, still, and admittingly, Bungie did try to fix this, and they weren't successful, is Distribution is supposed to reduce all ability cooldowns when you use your class ability near targets. Well, that also includes your super. I don't think it's supposed to work this way because in one of the patch fixes months ago, and I'm talking months ago, this was like 8 months ago or so, it said fixed super energy gain from Distribution. You weren't supposed to get it anymore. It still works. It still gives you super energy. So if you want to absolutely get a huge amount of super with this build consistently, what you do is you run double Distribution, or one if you want, but I'd say double Distribution, at least one Dynamo, or two. I've been practicing with two, but I kind of like having the targeting, so you really only need one Dynamo. As much intellect as you can get. With this specific build, I'm testing out whether I prefer 100 resilience or 9 resilience and then 10 intellect instead. But as much intellect you can get, and then Whisper of Bonds. The reason this works so well together is because let's assume you frost pull somebody and you get the kill. You get super energy from getting the kill. You get super energy from picking up the Orb of Power right after you kill them. You get super energy from Distribution, activating for using a Rift next to them. And then you also get super energy from Dynamo, activating for using a Rift near them. So for one single Frost Pulse kill, you essentially end up getting around like 4 kills worth of super in one Frost Pulse, which is insane. And even if you miss the Frost Pulse and you don't get the kill, Dynamo and Distribution are still giving you big chunks of super energy, and that it's essentially like getting a kill and a half of super just for using your Rift around a corner. And that pairs together so well with Stag because of the 25% Rift energy you get for getting critically wounded. So if you are consistently getting into engagements, not freely letting them destroy your health, right? Just natural engagements while keeping in mind, use my Rift as often as I can, even if I don't freeze them. You can get your Rift back so fast that you can kind of just bounce it back and forth between each other and get your super back nearly every single time, like super first, even before bubbles and wells.
Yeah, I remember one of the rounds we played in Trials. It was really close, like a 4-4 game, and I remember you weren't that close to your super yet, but you made a comment like, "I'm gonna go try to get my super," and then you're trying to. I think behind the wall or something. You're popping.
I vividly remember that. Yeah, we were in Javelin. We were in Javelin, and they were just about to like get their supers. We were inside, I think, the A spawn tunnel or something, and I knew that they were literally on the other side of the wall. Okay, so something that's really nice. I think the radius for whether it gives you super energy, I think they have to be within 15 meters. I think it's about 15 meters. On my Prophet, I have Keep Away. So Keep Away, I believe, activates as long as players are not within 15 meters. So I can use Keep Away as use my Rift. You know what I mean? They're within 15 meters because if it pops away, a keep away goes away from my screen, I know they're within that 15-meter activation radius, and then I use my rift around a corner if I'm in a situation where I need my super now. So I can be at like 95% of my super. Oh shoot, they're about to capture the flag. That 5% of that super is not going to come in for the next like 20 seconds or so. Doesn't matter. They're right behind the wall. Cast my rift, get that 5%, boom, get into the fight, hopefully win the game.
That's awesome. That's like that's similar. It reminds me of the old Cammy trick. He did that with threat detector a lot behind.
Yes. Oh, he had so many wonderful ideas just by using base perks in a way people don't expect you to. Like what? Using the status pop up for keep away to know whether or not you can get super energy. I mean, what?
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a huge 5,000 IQ. That's awesome.
It's great.
So you also have a little bit of a change up you're telling me about where you can switch off the stag to a different exotic to get kind of a slightly different playstyle that uses a lot of the same elements but kind of has some other benefits. Can you explain that?
For sure. So the other exotic that I've been playing around with lately, just because of how well it works together with Frostpulse, your team, and also the most annoying part of Trials right now, is Ballador's Wrath Weavers. These things, I think, are under their radar right now in a very, very crazy way, and they are very good right now. Generally, I run this build almost the exact same way as the previous build. It's almost no different. However, instead of trying to maximize Frostpulse usage to get it as often as possible, I use Ballador's to maximize my survivability using Frostpulse, and then the ability to take out supers much quicker and give my teammates extra buffs. So if I read Ballador's out real quick, when you use your super, your shockwave deals increased shatter damage, which means when you're fighting a super, most supers, I'm pretty sure you still need to two-shot them. However, one very specific super, which is incredibly good against, is Well of Radiance. And you will see Well of Radiance in Trials everywhere. Almost every other game, there will always be somebody who slaps a well on the flag, captures a flag, wins the game because of it. It's one of the most frustrating things for me personally. But the crazy thing, first of all, about Winter's Wrath, the super, is you can break a well with the Winter's Wrath super by freezing the sword with the regular light attack and then bursting it with the heavy attack. Now, normally, this takes about 2, 3, maybe even 4 times, but it's usually at max 3 times in order to shatter the sword and then destroy the team. Because a lot of people don't expect that because you can't freeze when you're in a well. So they're like, haha, your freeze shots won't hit us. And then it breaks the sword and it's, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's great. People don't expect it whatsoever. It is such a counter to well. But with Ballador's, because of that increased shatter damage, it actually takes down how many blows you need to deal to the sword by at least 1. So instead of taking 2 to 3 shots to break the well, it's like 1 to 2 shots.
That's really powerful. So when you're loading into Trials, for example, do you tend to switch to this before, like right when if you notice that someone's playing well?
If I notice that there are multiple wells, I do like to switch to this build because it gets me in preparation to destroy the wells, just in case. But generally, I kind of just stay with either or. I don't have like I must use this build. If they're using that, I have to. It's more of well, this is my card I can use if they play this card, or I can use this other card. Both are equally effective, but this one is specifically good against Well of Radiances. So if there's multiple, then I'll probably usually switch to this one.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Is it also effective against bubbles, or is it really just against wells?
So because you can't freeze an actual bubble, it does no different than without having it. It's pretty much the only difference that this ends up doing is making you blow up a well like 50% faster. And it also, because it does increased shatter damage, that means if you're fighting a regular roaming super, if you get any team shot damage on them, you should be able to one-shot them. Before, you had to even with a little bit of team shot damage, you'd have to like hit a super twice to kill it every single time. But because it does increase shatter damage, that means as long as your teammates or you can get like a couple bullets into that person, that super, before it gets to you guys and you freeze them, you should be able to one-shot them. So it's pretty helpful against generally every super, but it's mainly the Well of Radiance because of the importance of the flag in Trials right now, and how prevalent Well and Bubble are right now, that I specifically enjoy this exotic right now. But it's not just because of the extra shatter damage. The other part of this is giving Frostpulse and Overshield when you use your Frostpulse. I believe you get about 50 overshields when you use Frostpulse with this exotic on. That is incredibly helpful because there are occasions, even when I'm using Stag, that I get the melee kill, but I can't pick up the orb in time because it still needs to spawn, and then like you pick it up right after it spawns, but it still has that moment where it spawns and you can't pick it up right away, that I end up dying because I'm too low health. But because Balador's would give you 50 overshields instantly, the moment that burst comes out, you get 50 overshields, it allows you to tank so many primary shots just off the bat that it allows you to get that melee kill, to pick up that orb, to get your health. So it's very good if you want maximum survivability with Frostpulse, whereas Stag is very good if you want to maximize the usage of Frostpulse, how many times you can use it.
Okay, interesting. That's really cool. Both of these builds are really, really neat. I love the synergy between all the different components. That's one of my favorite things about cool Destiny builds, is just when so many of the different pieces all work together.
And yes, this these exotics work so beautifully with Stasis. Even by themselves, the Stasis subclass for Warlock is just so powerful. And I can understand in some ways, yes, it can be a little bit too powerful. But I think it's just one of those situations where if you see somebody who's playing this specific subclass, you need to kind of change your mindset of how you approach engagements. I think generally most people are kind of comfortable with being able to push into any engagements with their primary weapons or special weapons and not have to worry too much about abilities that completely change the way you can play the game. But Shadebinder is one of those subclasses that does require you to understand, if I get too pushy, I might get frozen and shut our entire team down. I need to stick with my team and try and stay a little bit mid-range to be able to take them out from a distance and not allow myself to get caught in close range too often. That's the biggest thing I enjoy about Shadebinders. It forces the matches to have a little bit more play, if that makes sense, rather than the same thing over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was playing, I think yesterday, against some Shadebinders in 6v6, and I was getting frozen so many times. It was getting me kind of tilted, honestly, because it was like they must have been using something similar. I didn't inspect them, but man, they were so good with all the different ways to freeze people, and so I was just getting frozen around every corner, and it really does change how you have to approach things. I found myself starting to play a lot more passively because I just didn't want to get frozen around corners anymore from them.
Yeah, you do have to. One way to counter, I guess you could say, this this general class is that Frostpulse, that Shadebinder is going to be waiting around that corner with that Frostpulse. Generally, if they know how to use the Shadebinder class, they're gonna be waiting around that corner with Frostpulse. So if you have something like a grenade to toss at that corner to essentially shove them away from it, or you find an angle where you can shoot them if they decide to try and peek a little bit, you just have to understand that you're putting yourself at massive risk if you go around that corner, and that's not necessarily a bad thing for the health of the game. I think we could use a little bit more abilities that require you to approach an engagement differently than just, oh, I see someone there, just shoot them, run up to them, shoot them, you know? Which is why I like this so much. And, you know, there's a couple other abilities in the game, kind of like Titan Barricades, being able to close off an entire angle, and you can't push or else you'll get 99% of your health taken in 0.1 second. So now you have to approach that situation differently. Do I shoot out the barricade and risk them popping around the corner while I'm trying to take their barricade down and taking me down instead? Do I completely wrap around a completely different angle but then give up the most important objective where I'm standing, or the high ground or something? It's enjoyable. I like there being abilities that are effective enough to change how the game needs to be played.
Yeah, I understand that a lot, and I do think it's pretty interesting when people use unique setups like this, because we do see a lot of like kind of cookie cutter meta builds, and it's nice when people think outside the box a little bit. So I do appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about your PvE builds. I think you had a couple builds that you wanted to show people.
Yeah, so one of the builds I use currently, honestly, it's kind of a massive F around and find out build, because it can either be incredibly good as long as you're committed to it, or it can be kind of like, all right, what am I doing right now? And that is using Winter Bite for the melee combined with Winter's Guile, and then combining that with a Feed the Void Child of Old Gods aspects to generate orbs of power to get Devour. The general play of this build is to cast your Rift, which then spawns a Child of Old Gods, damage an enemy so it goes and weakens them, and then by using Echo of Harvest, when you defeat a weakened target, it creates an Orb of Power. And then by using Echo of Starvation, picking up that Orb of Power grants you Devour. Now, the nice thing about that is Winter Bite, when you have ammo in the gun, oh my god, listen to me, the glaive, you get, I believe, 30% extra damage, and then every few shots will slow targets up to a point where it freezes them. I took this into Onslaught, like a Legend Onslaught, and Devour combined with Winter Bite and Winter's Guile at ×5 melee will demolish yellow bars really, really, really quickly, as long as you're playing the class smart. And it's just really fun to be bouncing around between enemies in a mode like that and essentially nearly one-shotting everything. Obviously, you do have to play smart when you go against like the bigger enemies that spawn in. You can't just run into them. You will get ground slammed. But generally, for keeping corners down or keeping angles locked in, it's just a lot of fun to bounce between enemies with the amount of damage that Winter's Guile can give Winter Bite for the melee attack.
Yeah, that sounds really fun. I need to give this a try.
It's an exciting combo. I enjoy it a lot. It's just, you wouldn't really think a glaive build would be too much fun, but when you're one or two shotting yellow bars in the legend difficulty for Onslaught, it's kind of funny, you know?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think most of us have been playing a decent amount of Onslaught, trying to get all the different weapons, so it's it's nice to have a little bit of build variety to try out some different things to spice it up a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, I do, once we get to like the boss phases, I absolutely swap off of this onto like a grenade launcher that's going to do boss damage.
Sure.
There's no way I take this into the boss rooms. You know, this is more of a actually have something that is actually pretty damn decent as long as you play it right. But then, yeah, we go to the proper stuff.
Yeah.
When it's time to deal damage. You
Sure.
know, I'm not going to go into a random Onslaught with random people and have them open up my build and going like, why the hell is he using Winter's Bite against the boss? It's like wave 50. What the fuck? Like, no.
That's why we didn't clear the boss on wave 50.
Yeah, that's why we wiped on wave 1. What the hell? Yeah, no.
That is nice though, having the ability to run some different stuff and then swap to
certainly.
do DPS.
Oh,
if you need to.
and then I should mention real quick, actually, sorry to cut you off there, but one of the weapons that I've been finding myself using massively in PvE lately is Multi-Mock from Iron Banner. This thing can roll attrition orbs and kinetic tremors, and kinetic tremors will reduce how many shots it takes to activate attrition orbs by I think about like 2 or 3 shots, and that means you spawn orbs of power almost every other enemy. It is hilarious how, without even having to kill them too. And so if you are running builds like Devour builds, picking up an Orb of Power grants you Devour, even just using this weapon at base, you spawn orbs everywhere and you essentially have Devour up at all times. And then even if you use this, let's say with the Warlock subclass over here, if you use, I believe it's called, let's see, Whisper of Warding. So when you pick up an Orb of Power, it gives you Woven Mail. And if you combine that with Thread of Transmutation, when you have Woven Mail, any weapon final blows creates a Tangle. Well, that includes Multi-Mock. And because Multi-Mock has kinetic tremors, if you killed that enemy with the explosion and the Tangle spawns, kinetic tremors will blow up that Tangle. Which then if you combine that with the aspect Wanderer, it will instantly suspend every single enemy around them because it destroyed the Tangle. And this works very well on the Hunter the Hunter Strand subclass as well, with the aspect that spawns that, that Mountain Dew flavored Beyblade for destroying a tangle. It's the synergy with it is so good. I'm highly recommending to almost everybody that I speak to, whenever Iron Banner comes back, you need to get one of these for PvE. I will be taking this into the raid for sure as one of my weapons for a lot of situations.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, well, I think Iron Banner is next week, so I'm gonna have to be looking for one of these. I haven't gone for a whole lot of different multi-bot combos yet, so that'll be one that will be on my list to farm for.
I'm specifically looking for a max stability roll, because I figure the more stable the weapon is, the easier it is to hit the shots more consistently at range, which then gets me kinetic tremors to activate more consistently because I'm not missing a bullet here and there at far ranges. And then even though I'm far outside of the submachine gun's base damage range, I can still kill an enemy from like 30-40 meters away because of how much damage kinetic tremors does.
Yeah, that's cool. That's something I'm going to have to be looking out for. That's cool. So I heard that you have one other really fun build that is involving some sniper rifles, which is probably my favorite type of weapon in Destiny. So I'm really excited to see you explain this one.
If you've ever wanted to use a sniper rifle against a Dreg and not feel bad about it, this is your build. This thing is absolutely amazing. There's a new perk that it got introduced. I think maybe last season or so, but it's under the radar generally for most people because you don't really think about it all that much, and it's not used all that often. You don't see it that often. But the perk is called Discord. And the reason why this is so damn unique is because on a special weapon, when Discord is active, kills will refund ammo for free. It doesn't pull from your reserve. It just gives you free ammo directly to the magazine. One bullet, right? But one bullet is just enough. So I sat there thinking, okay, one Discord weapon is cool. One chocolate bar is cool. What if I had a second chocolate bar? So with this build, I'm running double Discord sniper rifles. So the play with this is I get a kill with the sniper rifle, which is already an aggressive frame sniper. They do a lot of crit damage in PvE. So I get one crit damage kill, or just a kill in general, and then I immediately swap to my other sniper rifle, which has Discord on it. So now for 6 seconds, every kill I get with the sniper will immediately refund the magazine back completely. And so then once that timer runs out, well, I just finished off with a kill. You swap back to your original sniper, and now that weapon has 6 seconds of Discord. So the entire play just essentially means you have infinite Discord up at all times, and as long as you're hitting body shots on red bars and crit shots on yellow bars, you never need ammo. You never need ammo. You can just keep on swapping back and forth between these two sniper rifles. And I even took this into a Legend Onslaught. I know that's not necessarily the benchmark for builds that work, but we still got a 50 wave completion on Legend, and I was just using this build. And it's hilarious. And I personally like to combine this with Osmio. Now, what a lot of people would normally do is they'd use Osmio and then they'd use Bleak Watcher. I do not do that. And the reason why is because if you hit an enemy directly with the grenade, you get pretty much the entire grenade energy back. So what I do is if we're getting up to the higher level engagements, the higher rounds, there's a lot of red bars together, using double snipers, you can only shoot so fast. What I do is I throw the grenade directly at them, pretty much freeze the entire group, and then I shatter headshot one of them and it kills everything. And then if we freeze like a yellow bar, obviously now they're frozen, so they take extra special damage. Aggressive frame snipers already do ridiculous amounts of special damage, and so you freeze a yellow bar and you pretty much 1 or 2 shot them in the head, and then you can keep the boost going over and over and over and over again. And if you want to make sure that you never have to reload any of these guns, I like to run a kinetic holster, or at least a holster for the first sniper and a holster for the second sniper. So by the time you swap back to that other sniper when that 6 seconds is over, well, now that weapon is completely refilled all the way up and you never have to reload the magazine. So it truly is just like the Borderlands 3 infinite pistol combination here. It's hilarious.
Dude, this is like my dream PvE just for fun setup. I really want to give this a try. I'm going to be having to look for some Discord snipers. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, this thing is just a wonderfully funny thing to do. I can launch a quick onslaught in here while we're discussing, and I can just like show you for a second. But it is just hilarious how well it works together. And you can do this on like on Hunter. There's a build I like to run on Hunter with Radiant Dance Machines and the Void subclass with stylish execution. The aspect that gives you invisibility when you dodge, and then the aspect that allows you to do the dive into an invisibility with your melee. So what I like to do is if I dodge when I'm near an enemy, activates Radiant Dance Machines, and then I jump up in the air, ground slam, weaken everything around me, and now they're weakened, which means they take a lot more damage, and then I hit them with a crit shot, kill them, and then because I kill them, it resets the timer on Radiant Dance Machines, and that essentially allows me to have constant weakened slams against every single enemy. So I get a body shot on this guy, I swap to the other sniper, and now, as long as I don't mess it up, I basically have infinite ammo to keep on bouncing back and forth between these enemies here.
It's amazing.
I literally never have to reload. Oh, almost never. And there is one thing that I like to do in order to make sure that I do have ammo just in case, because, you know, things happen. Sometimes you run out of ammo. So I run an elemental charge build where every single time I pick up a shard here, now I'm actually using shards from freezing enemies, I can get charge of light. So I combine that with a special finisher. That way, when I have 3 stacks of armor charge, which I get pretty much every single time I get this combo going, I can finish an enemy to get special ammo just in case I completely run out.
Well, thanks so much for spending your time sharing all these builds. These are really fun. I'm excited to try them myself. And we're going to put some dim links in the description. So anyone who wants to try these builds, you can use the dim links to just copy them exactly. So you don't have to go through the video and go frame by frame to figure out how it all works together, because I know they're a little bit complicated.
Yeah, I'll make sure to add the dim links on there for you. It might you will still have to find 2 sniper rifles, obviously, with Discord if you want to play around with those PvE builds. But yeah, please do give Frostpulse a shot. I really do think people don't give it the opportunity that it deserves for how good of an ability it is. But yes, thank you so much for having me on again to spend all this time talking to you again and gush about how much I absolutely love the Shadebinder subclass.
Yeah. I just hope that my viewers don't use this against me in the Crucible, because it is very powerful. Awesome. All right. Thank you, buddy. Thanks again to WarThunder for sponsoring the video. You can try it out for free on PC, PlayStation, or Xbox, and use my link in the pinned comment or video description to register. Those of you who are new or haven't played for 6 months will also receive a massive bonus pack across all platforms, including multiple premium vehicles, in-game currency, and more. Up next, check out my playlist of videos just like this one with other Destiny creators. It's linked on screen and in the description.